definitely wanted to get into this really quick because I think it's definitely worth talking about. I know some of you may not be big social media people, but I do think this story is important for the simple fact that it shows you that our government has now started to compromise big tech and sort of cultivate this surveillance state that we have now. So Elon Musk just basically bought Twitter. I don't know how many people were paying attention to that, but Elon Musk just bought Twitter a few months ago, and he is actually, since he's taken over, the media has really had it out for Elon and Twitter because they don't like him, mostly because a lot of them are liberals, and he's become a conservative in their eyes. So what he's done is he's leaked the sort of files of the previous administration's ownership of Twitter, which is the biggest social media platform, to journalist Matt Taibbi, who is a left-wing journalist and very critical of the media. And they actually found, Rev, that Twitter was working with the Democratic Party to basically silence all non-DNC approved speech on the a lot of non-DNC approved speech on the platform.
Okay.
So it basically tells the credible story that this is this is the most influential social media platform in the world. Basically, the staff and executives began to use more and more the tools that are used to control speech. Now, usually it was like, at first it was spam, harassment, child abuse, violence, things like that. But over time, they began to use it more and more and more. And we talk about this all the time on the show. After Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 and Donald Trump won, the media at that point began to believe that it is no longer their job to be objective and to out and out root for the Democratic Party. So what we saw was what he actually started leaking a lot of the proof of the corporate malfeasance of Twitter. And so you started seeing that ultimately the Democratic Party started making requests. The Biden team, even before they were in office, even before Biden was in office, they began to make requests for celebrities and even unknown people to be removed or reviewed at the behest of the DNC.
Right.
So ultimately, like, you started to see, like, this came up, and we talked about this on the show, when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop situation. The Twitter took extraordinary steps to suppress the story. We talked about it at the time. They removed links. They posted warnings that it may be unsafe. They even blocked its transmission versus DM. I couldn't have DM'd the story about Hunter Biden's laptop from the New York Post, even though it's a major national newspaper. I couldn't have even sent it to you in a DM, Ref.
Wow.
Yeah. So this.
I mean, I remember that. That all the fracas over that.
Now, this is a tool that was usually reserved for child pornography. And they were essentially, in their files, they were essentially classifying it like it was child pornography.
Mm-hmm.
And so White House spokeswoman at the time, Kayleigh McEnany, who was Trump's spokeswoman, she was actually locked out of her account. This is the White House's spokesperson, locked out of her Twitter account because she tweeted about the story. Now, what's even crazier is that the decisions were made without the knowledge of the CEO at the time, Jack Dorsey. He was completely kept out of the loop. You had complete partisan actors.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Except, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm not in the loop.
Yeah.
I knew about it.
Yeah.
You're not in the loop.
Well, we
know about
it. Well, see, here's the thing. We didn't have the proof. Like, we could say, oh, they're doing this, but, like, they actually, because they would actually deny it. They would say there's no such thing as, we're not, oh, that's just terrible, or this is what do they call it, Russian propaganda.
Yeah.
And this is what I've always said from day one, the whole Russian propaganda thing was so dangerous. So the only Democrat who actually spoke out against this was a congressman from California named Ro Khanna, a nice Indian gentleman, one of the few Democrats who will actually talk to the left. And he was the only Democratic official who said, look, this is actually anti-free speech. You guys are violating people's, like, there's a free speech argument, there's a First Amendment argument to why people should be able to share, these certain things, and be able to talk about certain things in the world's largest social media platform. But they ignored him, and Rev, during COVID, actually, they ramped it up even more. We talked about it on here as well. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, who argued that COVID lockdowns would hurt children, which they did, and you talked about that. From the very beginning, even when I was a lot more pro lockdown, you were saying, I don't like, if we start locking people down, this is gonna, like, affect people's lives.
Yeah. So, and here we are.
Yeah, and this doctor said it from Stanford. He said, he argued that COVID lockdowns will hurt children, and he was put on the Trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from getting out there. Talk show host Dan Bongino was hit with a search blacklist. Conservative activists were hit with "Don't Amplify" tags. They lied to the CEO of the company, and this is why Elon came in and fired all these people.
Yeah.
So this is actually a public forum working with a political party. That's why this is important. Look, I mean, a lot of people, I know a lot of our audience probably isn't on social media. A lot of them probably don't care for the internet or that type of thing. But when you have a public forum that is the most influential platform that all of our politicians are on, including presidents, vice presidents, ex-presidents, and you actually have this forum working with a political party to silence its opponents, that is scary, Ref.
Yeah. This is what gives fuel to the argument that social media should be treated the same way radio and commercial television are treated.
Yep.
Because it has the ability to influence, to control, to direct the public discourse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same reason why we don't allow yellow journalism anymore with the print media. It's the same reason why commercial radio stations have to carry a license to broadcast in the public interest. At the same time, the government, I don't know if the government had anything to do with the development of social media platforms. Some private citizens developed some things using their talent and their skill and their ingenuity. But sometimes the sum is greater than the parts.
I agree. Like, I think ultimately, like, you see, I think Twitter and other these they become monopolies, and because of that, I think that you have to treat them as public utilities on some level, because, like I said, the president of the United States is on this forum. They locked Trump out, which I really opposed, and not only me, but like the president of the chancellor of Germany at the time, Angela Merkel, came out against when they banned Trump from Twitter as well after January 6th. Like, they at a certain point, the media and social media can be so they can distort the truth to the point where, like I always tell people on this show, as a leftist, okay, I say this: the worst thing that's happened to us is that the liberals control the media. This is the worst thing about it, because again, they give a distorted version of reality, and so even those of us on the left cannot properly assess what is going on in the country and how people are really thinking and what people are really doing. They are causing a backlash against us on the left. A lot of people, when I start talking about, hey, I'm a leftist, they think I want to put their kid in a dress or something. They think that they think those things. They don't think I'm talking about, unions, organized labor. I'm talking about what Cesar Chavez was talking about. I'm talking about what Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were talking about. And
you're talking the actual historic,
old school
Marxist Leninist. Look,
class.
We've got a problem of classes, and there's one class that thinks that it's good, right, and salutary that it should own all the means of production and compel the other class to work for them, and then they give out what they choose to give to them in order to survive.
Right. But at some point that became hijacked. It became about like pushing the Ibrahim X Kendi stuff,
Yeah.
and the transgender idea, which we talked about that on the show. One of the accounts that I used for that show as a resource that exposed a lot of the groomers who were pushing these really explicit graphic sexual materials and having drag queens performing for kids and stuff. They were blacklisted. Libs of TikTok was blacklisted on Twitter as well and suppressed on Twitter as well, suspended multiple times solely. And this is the thing I always liked about that platform. Even though this woman, Libs of TikTok, I forget what her real name is, she's on the right, but all she does is play the own words of the people who are saying it. Mm-hmm. She may say something snarky or sarcastic, but she doesn't add anything to the videos. She just lets these people who are talking about overt sexual acts and how they're teaching your kids. And I actually played on the show some months ago. One of the professors said he couldn't find anything morally wrong with having sex with toddlers and stuff like that. He couldn't find anything, and that's what I'm saying. When you have these types of people, and then they say that they represent the left, and then I go, oh man, you're killing us here, and that's why it's important to have an actual free speech forum, and have so that all these ideas can come out, and so those of us who oppose that form of so-called leftism can say these people are nuts. Don't listen to them. Mm-hmm. But they lock us out of the platform, and they locked a lot of the people who on the conservative side who had points about who had good points about Russiagate, who had good points about COVID. Like I said, like you talked about lockdowns, a lot of people who had your opinion about lockdowns and about these things were cut off from society. Their viewpoint was cut off from all forms of media, and now we're seeing that a lot of those people were right.
Yeah. It reminds me of something I learned in one of my classes I took over the past couple of years. Most people think that the political spectrum is linear. You got the extreme left on one end, and you got the extreme right on the other end. And the professor said, in actuality, it's more like a circle. Mm. The two extreme wings have more in common with each other than they do with people who are in the mainstream of either side. Mm. They do the same thing, maybe for different. They present different motives for why they do the things they do, but they do the same thing. Both of the extreme sides think that they know more than everybody else.
Yep.
Think that they are the best equipped to run society because they know more than everybody else.
Yep.
And think that everybody else, the best thing they can do is either go along with the program or sit down and shut up. Mm-hmm. And so here we are. And we encourage you to not sit down and shut up.
Right.
We encourage you to speak what you see, what you've reasoned out, what you feel is the case, whether it's local stuff, state stuff, national stuff, even international stuff. And don't be afraid to be, quote unquote, on the margins in this space that we share with you until 8 o'clock.
Right, and that's why it's Free Speech Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's Free Speech Friday, folks. Please stay with us. We got to go to our first break here on WOTH 1370 AM. But feel free to give us a call, 219-885-1371. That number again, 219-885-1371. When we come back, I definitely wanted to hear what you had to say about this story, Rev, and I want to hear what the listeners have to say about HBCUs, historically black colleges. Do we still need historically black colleges? Did you go to a historically black college? We want to hear about your feelings, because this is becoming a very controversial topic now that Deion Sanders said he was coming to save that HBCUs, and now he's left as soon as he got a offer from the white man. So please stay with us here on WOTH 1370 AM. Free Speech Friday. We'll be right back after these.